Good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of Venerable Khenpo Khalsang Gyaltsen, we're very grateful that His Eminence Ngor Tartse Khen Rinpoche is continuing his teachings here at Sechung Kunchap Ling. Today we have the opportunity to receive from His Eminence a teaching on the parting from the four attachments, which is one of the important mind training teachings of our Sakyapa tradition. We're very grateful for this opportunity and also for translation by Venerable Khenpo Pema Wangdak. Thank you all for joining us here today online as well as in person. And we will now begin with the prayers in the Tibetan language.
Semje namje samba daloye cheda jidra chechon demon debai cheje golo gordo so.
이제베 제베데 제반 진행 남대 고담 라야라 미제신게 동바샤게죠 세단 nomra 제라 그죠 그저 저런 저러는 멘다라 동바 전내전 내가 너고 이제면 벌써 저원에 별로남 가야다 간저인데 버려로죠 도가를 번좀 받고 임바 대다 담제 더바던 배고ጆ도 손이 짓는 듯이 나나라면 미엄지 왕보다 자절로서 추디절로 저와 저반 선조선으로도 주신데 뉴디로 본 대다시 대한 담배 주님 짓는 듯이 건도 조조 동계 지내나 근데 절로만 줄바가 소단 된들은 먼저 뒤에 저베지 냠브란도 반 담젠들이지 아예게 달로단 늦은게 조금다다 미행게 도와 군전단 넘쳐서 탐지에게도 나기 주된 몰라서 다들 님원 잡라 주된 니바데 네 심바시데 걔네 지대도 수도디슈에 있어.
This afternoon's teaching will be based on the title called Parting from the Four Attachments.
네, 도마 당연히 주시거나 시는 그런 근저들은 받아야 못 살다고 나왔어.
Just as has been introduced earlier, you are to prepare listening to the teaching with the proper motivation and proper attitude.
네, 담 가르쳐 버려. 셴바 시작에 담간데 안에 사진 공간 영보. 공로 중니 셰베 되수 안에 담보 잠비양게 두번다와 쭉 제버려서 봐.
The great Grand Sakya Master Sachin Kunga Nyingbo, when he was 12 years old, he meditated on the base of the meditation of Manjushri.
안에 잠비양게 두번다와 쭉 제네 디체라 안에 잠비양 우수 그런 샤시네 안에 공부 잠비양게 샹안에 세딜라션은 쳐바면 코로알라션은 연종면 다든라션은 장심면 짐바촌나 따와면 세네데기안에 세제시드 소마레스로.
After meditating for 6 months, he has the direct vision of Manjushri, who then taught him these four lines of parting from the four attachment, that which says, if one is attached to this life alone, one is not a spiritual person. If one is attached to the worldly concerns, then one is not a renunciate. And it also says one is if one's attached to one's own self-interest, one is not a bodhisattva. And finally, if there is grasping, then we don't have a proper view.
근데 인도산은다 댕대기에는 세간시고 되긴 나라 안에 태과 첨도 파로도 쯤에 냠낸 탐진 뉘대요 소마르디나.
This teaching of parting the four attachment includes some totality of the category of the teaching called Paramidayana, essentially referring to the Mahayana.
아니 샴바시테 마세비안네 잠베양디에 안에 라마 사자바 첨볼란 담가 망보송네 타마 잠베양디 진지 람네 라마 사진 공간 닝보 아니 저 가리 임바 있나요? 배 그런 제주 명예게 배 모습에 미제비 송도 받는데 좀 말했어요.
Not only he received this pith instruction of parting from attachment from Manjushri, but he also received many other teachings that would eventually help bless the Sachin Kunga Nyingbo. So he gains the dharani of never forgetting things. We call a dharani that helps to remember everything.
근데 임바인데다 시간 당부대 세딜레신은 쳐봐 미시바데다 고대고 제바이나 세딜레신차 제바이나 되는 쳐봐 말해서 말한다. 저들와
So to talk about starting from the first of the four quadrants of attachment, says if one practices dharma based on attachment on this life, then one is not a dharma practitioner.
오늘 쳐봐 남다지 제바이나 되는 세디 로이 당고요래서 말해.
For the ones who truly want to pursue a genuine and pure practice of the Dharma, he or she requires to need to renounce the concerns for this life.
근데 임바인도잖아 되는 세디 로이 땅 세디 레라고요 말은 그런 저다 빼마세비 쳐라네 로종 야부제 네 토섬 야부제 곰 야부 냠네 냠네 제고요래서
Certainly, letting go of this life is absolutely not an easy thing. It requires a lot of studies, lots of reflection, and great degree of meditation and practice.
근데 인도산에 다 된대기 거는 세딜라 셴바 빵만 도바이나 되는 코로와라 셴로 두자네 년중에 삼바든 저 제기요 말해서 말해. 연중의 삼바선은 다 동에 코로와 동에 대랑시레 도선바 된대기 동에 대기 매바 인도자네 되는 예바라도 세딜라 셴바 방법으로해서
lack of the concern for the future life, but focusing on this life, will limit us it will disable us to be able to renunciate the samsara. And thus, in order to accomplish that, one need to start with the letting go of the grasping that one has.
배나 제와치마 야고 용해당 제와치마 여송도 미제와당 아니 토릴 하나미 고방잠 도비체도 세딜라 셴바 방바이나 딩 연중게 셴바 남다데 말해서 배나 제와치마게 돈달라와 당하나 신여송도 마제베 돈달라 근데 세딜라 셴바 방바이나 땡 오늘 거라네 셴바 방바 차기 말해서
if one simply are concerns for so that we practice Dharma for the fear of falling into the lower realms, if one practices Dharma along that line, that is not going to be regarded as the letting go of this life, or the letting go of the attachment to this life. Also, if one simply focuses on, even if it's about future life, but simply focus on the better human, the birth and the heavenly life, that too is not regarded as a renunciation of this life. Basically, we be learning to let go of no matter what state of kinds of life form of the six realms, including this life. Such is the practice one should learn to accomplish the renunciation. There was a story connected to the great master Cho Atisha, and he has among many other disciples. He taught this one particular disciple, advising him to pursue the Dharma wholeheartedly.
This one is an identical that shows the conduct that you do not as son and that shows inside it and the conduct and the she was on the table.
So he taught that the way to practice Dharma is to recite the mantra and do a lot of verbal recitations of prayers.
And there's an attitude on the animal George, and church even the church is your song, but I say,
One day, Atisha saw him and saw him doing all the recitation and mantra prayer. He said, why not you do practice Dharma instead?
This is an attack, who somebody chose the young conduct and Jibu in Samare, Nasa Jibu in Samare, that is some dash then, come dash Jabu meadows and the uncle, some during both devils.
So he thought, oh, maybe it's the recitation of mantra during prayer is not necessarily constitute Dharma practice. So he decided maybe that what Dharma practice means to do a retreat or isolated retreat and do some kind of meditation.
The legend is an animal George, and church even the church is your song, but I say,
Then Atisha saw him again and said, no, you should practice Dharma instead, he says.
This an attack, does it on the tongue? Nga Sabayan, Kandun Dumbayan, some Devayan, use it, Jeva, Delache, Kaya, Mindus and the Shivares.
So in the end, he said, you know what, I tried everything from the recitation of the mantra, prayers, retreats, and so on. And whatever there is, I know of best. I've done it. I don't know anything else to do.
Then there should do something, George, said the Loy Tango, and said the Kogi that said the Layahu Yona and the Cheverva, the Mandriva, Kulon, the Imba Induzan, said the Loy Tang, and the Church.
So the question will be, what is Dharma? And the answer is simple. It's just that you practice, no matter what you practice, with the state of mind that truly lets go of this, your grasping to this life. So this is the meaning when it says that if you are attached to this life, one is not a Dharma practitioner. Yes. So basically, aspiring for a better life as human, better life as celestial being, that alone is not regarded as the Dharma practice. So for an individual who is aspiring to practice the Bodhisattva way of life, if that person is attached to, then that person's practice is not exactly going to be the way it is thought of. And in other words, if one is attached to one's interest, then one is not one does not become a Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva really means to work and to think of the beneficence of others primarily, and for the one whose idea, whose centerpiece of practice is such, and yet if one is attached to one's own self-interest, then it naturally becomes that one fails to become Bodhisattva.
And then Zimbachuna Tawa means it is an etine, Nobu Kaya Rona, Zimbacheva, Tidi Tawa Nanda de Mare Sumba.
And the last in the list of the practical attachment has to do with grasping, which literally says if the grasping, whatever one's grasping, arises, then one don't have the right view.
다와서도 내갑소 내로 도벨 로직라 세기요레스로.
Here the view meaning realization of the nature of the things.
요내로 대는 저베 다 탐제던 다와 강도양 마주바 인도 안에 대란 짐바 주바이나 대지기요 말에 다와난다 말에 숨are.
This primordial innate state of existence that is beyond any kind of elaboration or description, such a pure state. If one instead have grasping to that pure state, then one fails to recognize the right view.
지단은 세딜라 셴은 안에 초바메스빈 내갑티안에 세딜라 셴바바엘라 탑시 약쇼디안에 가르쳐그래 단준예가다 치와 미다바 공바 레 좀데 공바 된소레스네 긴자베르 무치게 숨기도서.
So when it says the first of the four parting from pure attachments, when it says that if one is attached to the state, one is not a Dharma practitioner. According to Kenshin Abe Rinpoche, here one should understand that it includes the teaching called reversing or returning our mind from external world back to the dharmic state of the mind, such as reflection on the difficulties of achieving human rebirth and the death and impermanence, reflection of death and impermanence, law of cause and effect, and the limitation of the samsaric existence. All of these essentially is the part and parcel of how one can over time learn to overcome the grasping of this life.
단준 예가라 지단에다다 배고는 예버가와 장기고는 예버가와 모고는 예버가와 망부송요레스로.
So one needs to reflect on when it says the difficulties of human birth, one should learn to train oneself to be reminded how the way we do is through reflecting on the numbers, through examples, and the very nature of the things. So through various means, one should then reflect on and learn to develop the over time detachment to this life.
나랑저 추여줘발라는 단조기 때 평숨 줘봐 도고 되잖네. 근데 나랑저 밀류 달와게단 저러 주창에 밀류된데 도야 시다깔래 가보셔야 돼요. 그래서
One needs to reflect on with the knowledge that how difficult it is to achieve this human birth by reflecting on the 8 leisures or 10 endowments, etc. Those are the qualities of life that one is possessed, and reflecting on those will also help us to develop and learn to develop detachment to this life.
나랑저 도스타도다 다 미망보다 가와침바이네 미망보던데 요래데 이나야 오늘 코란지 용도 자네 나랑저 밀류 토발에 마통에게 무슨 데네 마와요. 그래서 시작해.
If you look on face value, carefully considering everything else that is in the universe, the number of living beings that we call humans are extremely rare as compared to many others.
근데 인바인도 당하랑저 다와지던 저와 주창의 밀류디 단다 조시에바이나 안에 상제기 추 제기 고급중 당한낭신 추 년시바체 년바마스베 추 하고와 다 든들기 안에 고급 요바디 베마스베 고급 야부 인도산에 든들기 단주디 토라 단주요 말해서 말해.
So this Dharma teaching is reminding us not to waste this life by reflecting on such a precious opportunity in the form of life, the status, the quality of life, including the presence of the Buddha and the teachings of the Buddha's teaching, and there are followers who observes the teachings, and so on and so forth. All the necessity condition for such a precious life is we possess that, and thus one should learn to focus the preciousness of one's own life.
Tendregi tanjo to tuidila dine choya wama cheba ina ngaran zogyane ludende chiwa midabe rangshin yinba yindu namchi chame yindu dine ngebar do gyobu chego re sumbare.
Never do wrong.
Lawa ngaran zo milu yorwa talwa ke tanjo ra chu changwe luden tobi tuidila choya ma chena midabe rangshin yindu ane gyobu chi dogo yoba yindu zane kang gyogyo chu chego re sumbare.
So one should practice Dharma with the great sense of urgency, because with all the proper conditions that we have, all the precious moments, precious opportunities, leisures, endowments we have, it's because we are bound to, our life is speeding towards in other words, sooner than later, we'll discover that we are bound to death and dying. So there's a great sense has to be developed. Sense of urgency has to be developed. And also, if you reflect on the karmic causes condition, will also help you to slowly learn to let go of our obsessive concern for this life. In order to let go of the samsara in general, we need to bring about and reflect on the limitations of samsara itself. And likewise, in order to let go of the self-interest, one should reflect and meditate on kindness, compassion, and the bodhicitta. So in order to apply, how to learn to develop proper point of view, the ultimate nature of the things, one should then pursue the practice of shine and thakpa, which literally translates to calm abiding, single-pointed concentration on the one hand, on the other hand, vipassana, the insight meditation. This is a basic framework or the basic summary of the parting from the approach of detachment.
And then Chidan George Bande Adishaki Tigi Nanglayane Lamjirimba, Lojungirimba Nies and the song.
According to the Atisha's teaching, there are two stages: the stages of heart and stages of the mind training.
And the Lamjirimba said the Chidan and Tumongi teeth in the Resha.
And the stage of heart teaches the general instructions, gives the general instruction.
Yes.
And Lojong, the mind training, is essentially taught to those students of special qualities.
So the
stages of heart are taught in 3 levels. And that's taught along the line of great, middling, and the ordinary person level of capacity.
다지다네 계부 충우세나네 깨와 제마 녀송도 메디에이션 토리단 타르바 토발라네 네 가르세볼래 타르바 짬 토바 쇼 삼바 딘데 징겐텔라 계부 충우세 그래서
The ordinary person's mindset is called because those whose concerns are limited to future rebirth, trying to free oneself from the entanglement of falling into the lower realm, and this aspiration and wish to gain the higher form of birth, such as humans and heavenly beings.
벤난데 가르세오레 계부 충우세야 대제 벤난 년도기 대본다고 데데 계부 충우다고 시작해도 서마
So according to the different level of teaching is called Shravakayana. It belongs to the category of the Shravakayana.
벤네 소소랑이 타르바 톰난 쟁겐텔라 계부 징세기오레스로와
For those who are seeking of freedom from samsara, those are called middling person.
벤네 심진신 담지에기 된도 산제기 고방 톰난 쟁겐텔라 계부 첨보세기오레스로와
The great person is the one who aiming towards the in order to help all sentient beings and wish to serve all beings.
덴데기 계부 숨라 공네 덴네 최디 최 숨바데야 럼바 숨데 숨고스로와
So these are the three, based on three levels of intellectual capacity or interest, and that kind of three category. The Dharma itself is also taught accordingly to those three levels.
벤난 계부 충윤 주세나 계와 치매 된다 주베 체도 계와 싸운다고
Yes. For example, the Dharma that is taught for the ordinary person is the Dharma that helps them to have a better life in the next, etc.
계부 증기 주세나 되는 타르바토비 된도 안에 라바소 냠술렘바
Yes. And the Dharma that is taught for the individuals who are middle one are the ones whose interest is limited to their own liberation. So all the dharmas that is taught for that kind of person is the middling person's dharma.
되는 계부 챔뷰 람세나면도 계부 챔뷰 주세야 되네 대진 샘경군도 들어가고네 파진 주 냠술렘바다고
And the Dharma teaching that's taught or is applied by the great being is the path of Paramitayana, all such as 6 perfections, etc. So according to the individual's capacity, there are 3 stages, such 3 stages of life is being taught.
So if
you want to kind of juxtapose when it says in the parting for attachment, if one is attached to this life, then one is not spiritual practices. Actually, it compares to the ordinary people level of spiritual development. And also, if one is attached to samsara, one is not renunciated. It also talks about the that is the path that is taught to the middling intellectual capacity.
Zimbabwe tawamen saya dedane 다도나 전나 장선면 셰바 측간치만이 되게ane 계부 첨부 투모 마인베ane 람데 말해서
When it says one is obsessed with self-interest, plus if one has one grasping, one is not dharma. is the right, not right view, that refers to the Dharma teaching of the higher being, uncommon part of the Mahayana.
근데 인도 태과 첨부 주 냠수 랑지 주 대라 아니 탑당 셔람 니신의 송도 스르와.
So this Dharma teaching, based along the line of Mahayana, is taught in the context of the wisdom and the skillful in means.
대나네 다도나 신나 장심민 셰바 되게 안에 탑댕이도 스르와.
So if you again compare where in the pardon for attachment the methods taught, it is connected to when it says if one is attached to one's own self-interest. It's referring to the wisdom of no self, etc., which is referring to the skillful in means.
다가나신 전부 중나 다와민 셰바 되게 셰랍 댕이요 그래서와.
So when it says if one has grasping, it's not right view, it talks about wisdom.
근데 인바 인도산에다 셴바 시단 타와지 중바이나 근데 태과 첨부 람 초도 줄와 대안에 레도요 그래서와.
So such if one seeks or if one finds the way, if one pursues the path along the pardon for attachment, then it becomes a genuine Mahayana practice.
배나 겸도다 부직 제빈 내가수 안에 셴바 시단 타와지 중바이나데 오늘 거랑 태과 첨부 주 천대 자기요 그래서와.
So even if one were to do, say, refuge practice, if one applies pardon for attachment to the refuge, then that person's practice becomes a Mahayana practice.
대만동 아랑주 셈신라 예행네 제바이나 태과 첨부 주 남다 자기요메 안에 내가 매래서와.
Such Mahayana practice, if on the other hand one does it with the mind completely distracted, then it may not be it may not work as the Mahayana practice.
근데 인바인도 잠도 되나래 샘제 제바이나래 대과 첨복이다. 네 주제베 내가 없수 셴바시단 타와지 중바이나 근데 대과 첨복이 주천대 야고래도 요래.
So regardless of whether you do refuge or bodhicitta itself, if one does it by applying pardon for attachment, then that Dharma practice become a genuine Mahayana practice.
두징 아랑주 칸도난도 달로 추선도 오라 진jel로 추 람도 오라 진jel로 람지 출바시 오라 진jel로 셰바 등주 창마 셴바시달지다 손데브레데요 그래서.
There are prayers which says, may my mind turn towards the Dharma. May my Dharma practice work as path. And may the errors on the path be overcome. This all basically is based on talking about the teachings and the pardon for attachment.
근데게 코네 칸도는 덤빈내가서 셴바시단 타와 교지 세나다 셴바시단 타와 다간제 교지 세나민도 소속이 삼로 땅에 거는 근데 제바이나 되는데 칸도인데 남다 그런 천대 야고래도 그래서.
So no matter what practice you do, if you apply the pardon for attachment, then that practice, whether you say recitation or prayer or reflection and meditation, then that will be a genuine practice.
되는 코로알람 마신네 주에 제바이나다 소소랑 직부 된다 자기를 마도 지기 심지어 탐지기 된 차도 말해죠.
When talking about the second part of the attachment, the practice of a Dhamma practice that is free of attachment to the samsara, certainly is good for oneself, but it's certain at the same time it will not serve the purpose or benefit others.
배난 치만 직부가 된다란 추름야부 송화에는 대충 넘버 다바 레기요 말해서.
So if one were to practice Dharma, so that practice, say, observe the disciplines and observe the vows, so that we have a better life in the next life. It's certainly the Dharma, but it's not a pure Dharma.
다나 신 다도는 신바데 랑도는 신네 최제바이나 대과 침복의 람 노트레도 요런데 람 센데 차요 말해서.
So while practicing Mahayana practice, at the same time, if one is self-interest is ever present there and practicing within the self-interest, then that practice is no longer along the line of bodhicitta.
kenja aberum buchi songdo tekwa chenpo gen lam la ne chulba nyi yong gre songdo rangdun che go samba de chulba tangpo de dang ne lu seya dia ne karase ore dindre ji re senen zimba che ba na ne lu de la ane de chulba nyi ba de re senen songdo sirwa kenja aberum buchi
Kenja Rinpoche mentions two very important points. One is if one practices Dharma with self-centeredness. The other one is practicing Dharma with grasping. These are the two errors or the faults in the practice of Purifying attachments.
근데 인바인도 전에 랑도 제고 삼바당단 근데기 권에 제바는 노트젠도 다 강제 세딜라 셴바메바 장마야부치고 위반다.
So in short, basically one makes sure as part of the practice to let go of the attachment to this life and be pure or be purified of one's own mind of the concerns for future life, for this life.
근데 세딜라 셴바 제주요 말에 새로 잠게 소소랑게 셈게 람상 거라 제 도게 말아 내 인도 잔다 셈나라야 검자야고 태고 요래서.
So to practice the letting go of the self-interest for this life, certainly by saying that let go of the attachment to this life is not easy. So the way to do is the way to learn to develop such a detachment is to go through the practice of good familiarization of the concept.
근데 인도 세딜라 셴바 뽕한 제발라 되게 셴바 뽕에게 탑시에 제고 요래서.
As such, one should then learn to develop, acquire the skillful means to how to go about accomplishing that.
탑시 된조 당기 공도 슈바다도래네 단준예가 치와 미다바 레 좀델로 소바 된조 검고요래서.
So essentially, that in nutshell is that those skillful means are to be found in the four reflections, such as the precious difficulties of obtaining human rebirth, death and dying, law of cause and effect, and the faults and the failings of the samsara. These four major reflections will, over time, it will help us to develop familiarity and thus eventually overcome the attachment to this life. Among these four reflections, the best among, or most effective among, is reflection of the death and impermanence. Yes. So one will over time be able to slowly let go of the attachment by simply actually pursuing these four reflections over time. Yeah, the difficulties is essentially because we never did anything. But if we do it, it is a practice that anybody can, or we all have. There's no such thing that one is unable to do. In other words, these are all accessible for any individual to practice and accomplish.
다 소소기 검잘래 야구 장바이나 레알하고 명예 최강에 요 말에 소말에.
According to the Aryadeva, Shantideva, where it says there's no such thing in the universe that does not get easy when you get accustomed to it. And thus, because as such, that there's no such thing that we cannot accomplish if we get used to it.
나랑 좀 미기 샘디 다 교리에 레알하고 레데로 연된식라 페나 세르상부디 세리 약쇼데 안에 소다 칸데지 소바이나 레알하고 거네 소토기요 데나 신제네 나랑 좀 미디 나랑 미기 샘디 아니 야만 주리엘라 주르데고 요레 에서와
One of the great good quality of our human mind is its flexibility. It can be shaped like a good gold, pure gold. A good pure gold, we can make any shape and any designs. And likewise, our mind is also trainable and achievable. What we trained in.
텐도 전에 나랑 좀 미기 샘 디페나 샘 냠바데 상부치라 주리에 레알하고 레데요 에서와
So to turn our mind from that of a mind that is undisciplined into a discipline is not that hard. It is doable.
최야고 생gen지 임바이나 데샘 삼로 냠바 코르와이나 데 냠바레스나 람상 코라 상불 유튜브 용기요레 에서와
So those who help themselves, train themselves, will gain the ability, even in the midst of mental confusion, they will have the ability to transform it into another very negative mind. It becomes a catalyst of thinking something meaningful and good.
페나 나랑 저디 가르세오레 최 냠레 제겐지 임바이나 덴데기 강에 세 토기요라 다 최야고 미신기 지 임바이나 데니 지 강에 템보리 중바이나 데코라 삼로 땅이야 카실라 페마세베 쳬디 코란 톱라도와 덴데기 강에 첨부 용기요레 에서와
So the difference between the one who is accustomed and or well versed in the Dharma practice versus who are not, those who don't, they will get confused even for small reasons. They suffer a lot and they essentially preoccupy themselves the entire life and experience the confusions and difficulties and sufferings.
나랑 저기 남바 상제비 최디 조 치쇼디야 셈라다 가르세오 소주 갸베다 네 랑심 돌위체도 송샤바 장자레데요 에서와
The teachings of the Buddha is centered around how we can discipline or tame our mind.
아니 남바 상제비 최디 야부 제토바이나 소소기 강에 내가 강에 전부 중앙에나 델레 셋업데 셈데 나라야 주와치 탭도 남상 코라 강에 델레 조바 용기를 해서와
For those who are willing and wanting, they will have the ability to gain such trainings.
페나 간조 딩사네 잠불링 카사칼라야 네 롭존 체사기 데네 랍다 침부 카 망부요레 던조 창마라 조 치쇼데다 딩상기 안에 치응오보 야게라 땅야기 체도 네 롭존 망부테기요레 서와
As you see on a global level, we have excessive focus on the education that is purely extroverted.
근데 인도산에 치응오보 야게 도 낭신신에 나로기 셈기다 삼로 당당세나면도 뇨몽 받는 주다 나디에 셰당 타도라 소바양 치르치르로요 서와
In as much we progress externally on the material level, we also end up making our inner negative things equally bigger and bigger.
난 덴레기 좀 쟁게 셈 나나 강에 첨부 총두 데니 치응오보기 야제기 number te dan samlo nyomon be kun ne lang de kang e chembo di yong du de ya se ma thu che ta dang dang nang zo thong shim ba de pe na ma thu yin na re ne mo thu zo lo so ba de zo chang ma de zo de ko ne yong yo re sir ba
such things, such lack of inner training and are obsessed about the external has led us to the strife. All the strifes and struggles and fightings and have something to do with the lack of inner disabilities of not having inner education.
So kang de sama karel de ne yong yo re se du nang sem ge na samlo tang dang de so ju jam mo to bol de ne yong yo re sir ba
This is primarily because we fail to discipline our inner mind. And because of that, these troubles arises along the line of external success.
또 뭐 샤자 투베 송샤베 최대조 가주 대고 최종 최 간대지 임베 있나야 녀mom바 펠레 최지 직장 요 말해서 녀mom바 매버서 여기 최장자래 돼요.
All the teachings that Buddha taught, one should know. He never teaches that promotes negative emotions. Instead, on the contrary, all the teachings of the Buddhas are taught to how to overcome or at the least minimize our negative emotions and their effects.
근데 임바 인도산에 녀mom바 펠레 최지장 매바 인도 아니 또 산제 좀 되게 최 가리 제바이나 셈나라 펜바 장장 용기 요래서
And thus, because of that, if whoever follow the teachings of the Buddha, there is this phenomena that it directly helps the mental states.
펜베 셈데 용기 요바 인도 펜 최 증이지 용바이나 최 자첨부지 제마도나 최 하공의 미시 임바이나 아니 미시엠발라 펜도 자첨부 마도나 수수 셈라야 시대 용어지 덴데 용기 요래서
For example, you can see the benefit. If a person, a benevolent person who follows the Dharma of the Buddha, even he or she fails to make the difference in other people's life, still they definitely gains the inner peace, inner happiness.
아든데게 최냠낸 제게 민니 여바이나 민니 라시디 토기 요래서
Even if there are only two people practicing such Dharma, at least these people can have inner peace and happiness. So, whoever, if you teach to 100 people, that many will have a peace and happiness. So, if there is such person is in a certain region, that particular region will have a peace and happiness. So such peace is actually achievable globally, whenever they are, whoever practice such path. For our interest, wishing to bring peace and happiness on this earth, such a practice is essential. Such practice is essential to accomplish such aspiration. So one should know and be reminded that all the teachings of the Buddha is essentially to help train our mind and essentially centered around the training of the mind, So it's encouraged for those who want to pursue such peace, happiness, and such goal should pursue the Dharma practice of inner introspection.
텐데나 신체는 점바중나 따와면서 두산에다 따와양답으로 또 버체발라는 점바빵고요래서와.
Talking about the view, where it says that if one has a grasping, it is not the view, meaning a proper view is essential, and proper view is achieved through the overcoming of the grasping of the view itself.
따와 또 버체발라 대 탑시하고는 곰고요래서와.
Such a realization view requires to have the knowledge such as wisdom and skillful in means.
대대인도 다당의 공도 쉬반나 신뢰하네 산지기 최칸데 지체와이나 심바시단 다와지 중바이나 대추 천내 권한 야부차도요래서와.
So as before, all the Dharma practice, no matter what you do, if you apply this pattern for attachment, then your Dharma practice becomes a genuine Dharma practice.
nentewa chenpo ki chue nyamnen chekhin yinpa yinna shenpa shiraki anen dangwadi ngeparadu nyamsu lamko yachirayde yurayas.
For a person who pursue a Mahayana path, they must then pursue such path as taught in the pattern for attachment.
다른 데 참잖아라.
Yes.
되는 소수 네 말한조 지단에 가서 쇼게 쉬어나 시래 최시비 내가수 근롱 야부근의 표출 챙의 근원에 시에게 줘대 만으로와 시당 근롱 야부시고기요래서와.
Like as before, this morning I mentioned, and whether you're a teacher or student, one should have, especially a teacher, one should have a proper motivation.
되는 최년행 근원에양 근롱 상배고는 년바이나 다 딘제들라네 개와바도 매버요래서와.
And the listener, the students, the followers, if they listen to the Dharma with a benevolent mind, with a proper attitude, then you generate great level, great many merits.
딘데기 개와되는 타르바당 탐제 김배 고방 토벌쇼 삼년 딘데기 제도 원념 송로나.
So we have, as a teacher and as the listener to the Dharma teaching, whatever merit that we have gained through such effort, both the teaching teacher and the listener, whatever merit we then dedicate for the eventual enlightenment of all sentient beings. And your dedication. Totally. I request Rinpoche if we can ask a question. So if you do have a question, please don't hesitate to ask a question. 주어 지단이这些没有听的呀。
If I may kindly request for the Che to give some advice for beginning students such as myself. Sometimes it's hard to think about how to genuinely wish to attain enlightenment, really enlightenment. It seems so farther than the Olympics. And especially, of course, for the sake of all sentient beings, which seems so vast. So with such a small courage, such a vast aspiration, it's very beautiful, but it's hard to keep it in the heart. Because Rinpoche had any advice how to keep this vast and very high aspiration alive in our hearts.
semje 탐지 돈도 semje 야침을 쉬어야 돼. 그래 담보 발라야 르유도 맞추배. 지자에 이제 당 대바당 면바다 요리 돼. 이내야 발장을 뭐 다른 뭐 semje 장에 채도 장매와. 산지주 고바 더 쳐발아야 돼. 그바 뒤준 rum 토규 임바. 뒤절 때니 아주 내당 대당 semje 이 됐어. 가서 발려야 가서 즉 야치중 스스 내단의 야친주시 semje 최고의 야친무시 이 강에 연구도 전에 텔레 펜베 제가 가로 나왔어.
네, 란슬라서 다디 조응안한조단 태과 전부 인 temba 네버도 ten고 그래.
맞아.
저와 태과 전부 인서에 쉬고라 아니 가르세오르 semjen 탐제 주던도 삼로 땅고에데 임버와 대인도 전에 나 미충종지래 아니 semjen 탐제 주던 제투 말해서 삼로 디켜줘요 말했어. 대야는 로가레도 그러와 근데 인도 semjen 탐제 주던도 상제지 고방 예버도 토고도 내 semjen 주던 제고도 대 이나양 단단알은 누바메도 누바데 토베기 체도 아니 담배 준 넘버 따고지 제고도 선은 최념내 제고요래 근데 최들한 롭종 제 전에더니 semjen게 도에 제약이 누바데 lep기래 제고래.
So the way to think is to recognize, as you did already, not to undermine it, but simply recognize the limitation of the disability to accomplish such a huge aspiration. If you separate these two, your aspiration and your ability separated, and your aspiration should be as wide, as vast as the Lord Mind teaching teaches for the sake of all beings, but you limit your own inner state of mind, which the way to accomplish is that, yes, I don't have the ability, and yet I'm going to practice Dharma on my own level so that over time I become able to accomplish. That if you combine that two mode of thinking will help you.
Then nuba dengaran zola medu, then nuba de sula yores lavaina, jawan zobe sanje kona la yoba indu, semjen tamje ju don zobe sanje ju koban toba chase and not the.
So when we say, for the sake of all beings, I must attain supreme enlightenment, it tells you that I don't have the ability, but then who has it? Then you know or remind yourself the Buddha has it. So that alone will help you that it is not one's level of concern to think about it now, and except that one should aspire such state of Buddhahood, which then enable oneself to help all countless sentient beings. So, in fact, whenever you pray, for the sake of all beings, I must attain the supreme enlightenment, that alone tells you that you don't have the ability. And that ability only happens when you become enlightened. So for the time being, you focus on how to accomplish that goal. I cannot hear you anyway. If you come near. Come all the way to behind Anila. Cannot hear me. I need to hear it. I hear your sound, but I cannot hear your words.
When one feels that one's facing many difficulties, then it seems quite hard to practice without grasping. So I don't know if this teacher can comment on how to deal with those situations.
수수 미즈나로 강에 열심히 내가불라. 테네 냠네 시주디 차바 매버터네. 젠바 매버터네 냠네디 제당디 고라 갈로 지나로 나서.
강에 열심히 가불라.
다 강에서 강에 요르와 강에 요도 다 샴바 시자에게 냠네 쳔도 텐젠바 마쇼가 시주디 차주 요르와 텐젠바 가서 쇼게 탑
대 당기 공도 쉬버다도 저 제셔도 치와 미다고 공. 남지 참여 공주도 배 개천벌에. 당연한 텐데 단다 여르데 야고여 삼나야래 강에 중도 삼바 이나에 다딩 남주 수도 수이나에 남지 참여 해봐 메라 단다 벤나 자통바 이나 자통비 제를 시에 이나 하고 말에 단다 칠로를 치니 시나야 하고 말에 근데 해봐 메바 인도산에 대 양세 템바 이나 벤도 치모 용그래서
In short, reflection on impermanence is extremely helpful over time. And because it reminds us, or at least one should bring the awareness, that we could die any time. Even as we speak, or while having a cup of tea, or any, one never knows. So bringing the awareness, train our mind in bringing the awareness of death and impermanence will help one to overcome the difficulties, as well as to how to separate this grasping from what we have about the things that we will go through. This will help condition our mind to overcome that.
하나 신선나 강에 전부다 내가 레드 강에 전부 여바이난 대두 삼로 땅에 찍라 나라나 깔랭 강에 중바디 당아랑기 기왕만 랭엠바사베 제부레 삼로 땅바이나 대대기한 디스 펜도 용그레스로
Sometimes when we have difficulties, we should take our mind way beyond ourselves back to the past life, saying, okay, yeah, this happened, this life has something to do with the past. Might as well be the past life. So in other words, we have to kind of take a leap of absence to go beyond the present moment and reflect on the past. That will also help.
지단에 가랑졸라 강에 창만데다 조치셔도 신차 체는 용기 여러봐 다랑졸라 신바나네 신졸라 마가와다 간제 뇨몽베코네 용기 여바 인도산에 된 뇨몽바든서 하고 제고에 되게 좀 해서
So the core, something to remember that we should not forget, is that whenever we have difficulties, we should be reminded it has something that has to do with attachment. Somehow is connected, rooted, or hardwired with our attachments.
Rinpoche, from our online audience, we have a question. One of the online listeners asks, this teaching on parting from the four attachments, how is it useful at the time of death or in the Bardo? Is there any relationship between this and teachings on time of death or Bardo?
네, 신바시레지 쉐디 치외 내가 당 치찬에 되는 발도에 내가 불라 갈소래 펜도스나 양 다 펜도스를 간주시오르세
신바시레 나무가기
신바시레 쉐지 냠는데 치외 내가 당 치찬에 발도에 내가 불라 간주시
디 펜도시라요라 펜나 지단에 신바시단 타우소나 되는 치외 내가 소야 깔레시라 용기 말와 발도에 내가 소이나야 답변나 가랑조 단다 Bardo negabla cha shawaina pena wangi nego su song yore ngaranzo pena jedo wang dawo sung be negab su ani lama idam susu ge sangchen sum de temba ina bardo negab su ani pendo yore sung barwa ta di pendo yongwan te ha ko chebala ngola shemba shidan tawa den kom dende kom ne tene susu lama idam sangchen den zo tendu zane bardo negab su pendo yong yore so
Yes, it is extremely helpful. For example, if one, say for example, during the Bardo, the great help, the best help comes from the practitioner of Vajrayana, like one gain the ability to remember the deity and the guru and one's own sacred name, and these bring a smooth passage of part of state, and these abilities are based on while we live on the practice of the parting from the four attachments.
Kempo Kalsang Jaltsen and all of the grateful audience, both here and online. We'd like to thank His Eminence Tartse Ken Rinpoche from our hearts for this wonderful teaching, which is not only very, very classic and important, but also very direct and very much something that we can take into our hearts and minds and try to use to help us to overcome suffering both now and eventually to attain perfect enlightenment. We're very grateful for Rinpoche's very kind and very helpful and clear and inspiring teaching. We pray that Rinpoche's holy life will be long and that you will return to Tsechen Kunchabling again and again to kindly turn the wheel of Dharma far and wide, always. Thank you. Now we will have some dedication prayers.
Paden Zave Lama Rinpoche Dagi Jiwa Kadin Jimbe Gonen Jesu Kusun Tuje Ngordo Zado So Kari Rave Gurve Shingam De Pendan Dewa Mali Jive Chere Sewan Tinsin Jaso Shabe Shide Bardo Tenjo Je Chime Mishe Shuan Gurgana Chime Tse Alamo Chende Chime Tse La Woe Sonam Je Chime Tse Angoto SandaIson Beme Doje La Lamne Kenze Nuda Ransa Nyema Sade Nondo Besa Jazene Doja Lishe Kondo Tada Awan Jeda Laria Kunje Dondo Ganga Zete Jendama Pende Apaldo Barwe Chile Sambe Wangi Jabo Namdai Timde Seje Sasya Dozo Gumbe Rinjendum Sese Chamdan Jete Barim Jejachari Wadum Badiza Yawai Nipa Sese Komangi Jatin Chide Ninjasama Jawe Lasan Samo Lashana Jawa Chise Tenze Shabde Punza Jere Dinje Dasya Bapaden Sajaji Nujo Zamne Zebe Gendo Chin Chusha Sasum Doji Lume Laman Chusum Doji Daidam Deshon Jazo Tada Chinye Sama Girme Dembede Chitra Dogiro Jia Punzo Zia Sijia Pame Punzo Sijia Lamo Namjam Punzo Ladan Dubarin Zinje Punzo Dabai Dambe Ngadu Awa Wancho Dembe Sawan Jo Kekun Kungi Alade Kunji Sijia Namden Denjo Dembe So Wanja Javel Son Chodo Jave Sasorin Jenze Jedon Jimen Doshe Vena Tele Nave Sason Kunjaji Jamgen Timbe Nim Shabden So Dale Shija Mado Kimbe Zizen Jambe Yandan Gumbo Ji Shabmeka Nanda Namele Yeme Marve Singe Shabden Lapson Jime Kimbe Sashe So Dove Jamgen Doshe Tambe Suge Nudo Dose Den Toden Wancho Sodo Shabden Jamgen Dore Sege Dose Ala Wancho Yodabla Wanjo Nube Medo Kolong Yude Jazo Danye Shabden Cheshen Cheshen Sege Koryo Lang Averin Chen Dinye Kolong Laman Doje Zume Do Denye Dashen Payon Jen Jamba Bavan Bobe Derjen So Yanzen Game Chido Bombe Tembe Chino Rimo Dojenbe Dejen Jejen Yima Jamba Bage Zewe Kisa Je Mime Nije Yadam Sabge Kendo Dadon Gebe Aba Namden Jewe Sojen Kundo Nanja Jinya So Shawan Deso Jingo Rama Chinya Yondo Dejen Ishe Jen Tanda Sansan Jamba Anya No Ze Mame Jere Be No Sonde Nyanda Baya Sa Kundengo Misha Dasya Sundan Malayan Logi Zaza Tinga Pumboya Wa Dimyan Dasa Da Dambe Pa Kushin Da Chakya Mimba Dalai Jimen Zijen Zaya La Lama Da Son Da Preja Sa Chilai Ngudan Zeba Me Beda Jimen Taba Tambes Dalai Kunga Bajarin Shen Chedari San Kinzan Kanda Temen was I to be a god or sheds and bears of Jenshap. Jinya Shaja to Jake Bears and Jeshan along and John. The common Jeshan to Jan the man, but then bears or Shin Chambos. Shishan Yam Jan Jam Gens was and Todo Daniel Jim Yasa Damba Gaja Shabden. Alezum Tabe Sodabden, Chinyan de Dojo Solam, Denze Dumbe Donde Yemem, Till so the shoe counts. Sheshe Jawa Ramga Chedai, the Shezodo Ledonamja, Chedai Shezoza Pama, de Chimela Zosum Jeshiba. Mawan Jamba Gibe Sharab, Dan Sonaman Chive Shijoding. Choden Soden Dabe Zeba, Zentene Zembe Sunyo Shabden. Tosam Gumbe Sawar Abdo, Den Saza Zumbe Yada Shoy. Shemben Debe Kurgir Abde, Beshenya Pasa Wampo Shabden. Chechen Dembe Nimbo Iwan Belusan Namge no Bevenala. Tuve Tilaram Jam Jetembe Pesa Jesa Shabdens. Chavio Kuncho Sumja Chela. Tende Lua Me Bedemba. Daja Lasan Nambra Tabdoi. Membe Tenken de la Dubjuroje. Chime Zalain Joso Chelab Jevasa Lare Dejan Pardev. Inzing Aje Tilerab Jamla Pasho Dage Somo Soshe. Chime Doba Yonje Kolo Jo Tembe Nyama Chechen Saja. Idan Jole Tumbe Tendeng. Tenye Zeten Tato Bash. Chime Darbe Lamla Rasha Neranje Mijen Dola Kasa. Chenye Dembe Rasha Ngozan. Pende Tashe Mena Dade Shon Konjorin Je Sumje Chela. Karcho Gave Dodan Ba. Jave Tinsen Jaya Sepse So Kuserin Sin Tela Jijur. Lama Kukam Sala So Ande Chodo Kuse. Tila Dashin Jala So Ande Lama Dawa Me Ba Chinja. Kusere wa shindo tempa dan tinze nyenda shindo sawa. Nyenda namka tabo jaban. Tashi de jan tendre de le shon. Balden la me shepe tempa. Kanyam yola de je jowa. Tashi male so so dip jane. Nyoto sanje sol. Pyopa shon. Tempe apajo la me shepe. Tinze jebo sa den yola. Tembe jenda ngata jowa. Temba yure nebe da she sho. Do yu gunje jazo le sho ve sunga yi shen no bang. Pende bajo zambo jade. Palden la mi shabla so.